Hello, I'm the Angry Spork. Gotham has all sorts of crime fighters running around, with most of them having trained under or frequently working with Batman. Again, most of them. I'm taking issue with Nightwing / Huntress, where the original Boy Wonder teams up with someone his mentor doesn't much care for, even after she helped him fight that Predator that one time. Let's see if this story makes us want to turn the page, or turn our heads. The cover isn't anything ostentatious, but is fine for a first issue. The two vigilantes looking ready for action while perched on ledges in the rain, not afraid of getting the sniffles. Written by Devin Grayson with art by Greg Land, Bill Sienkiewicz, and Noel Giddings, we begin with a woman being attacked by someone off-panel. According to some flying stationery, this is taking place at the Starlight Hotel. Not sure if this is the direction their advertising should go, but that's just me. She defends herself with a lamp, but that just angers her assailant more, so much that he slams her against the wall, then gets angrier that he's apparently been cut.
You made me bleed my own blood.
Though maybe not all, if any of it, is actually his, as the woman slinks to the ground with a trail of blood on the wall, apparently killed. He checks her pulse, confirming her death, and begins panicking about his prints and takes a pillow from its case. If I smother her ghost, she can't tell anyone in the afterlife that I did it! Of course, this being Gotham, a criminal like that wouldn't be too shocking. In one of the many crime-ready warehouses in Gotham, a man named Frankie Black is surprised from behind by a woman he almost shoots, his girlfriend Moira. Despite this clear red flag in the relationship, they proceed to make out, until they're interrupted by his cohort Pasquale. What follows is a lot of dialogue that takes its time getting to the point, possibly to denote confusion brought about by unforeseen events. It's like a less funny Who's On First, but with mobsters instead of baseball managers and a corpse instead of goofy player names. Suffice to say, Frankie rented out a room at the Starlight Hotel in his name, hired a prostitute to be there, and sent Pasquale to ensure people were convinced of Frankie's presence, because he doesn't want anyone to know he's overseeing whatever crime's going on now. He's told that a woman was found dead in his room, and Frankie presumes it's the hooker Veronica, and now his alibi has him appear to have committed Murder 1. All this is overheard from a nearby rooftop by Nightwing. I bet if Grayson took some scriptwriting classes, he could rework and sell cases like this to episodes of various crime dramas. Outside the hotel, as the woman's body is taken by the coroner, Harvey Bullock is talking with an officer named Mason, who found the body after a tip from one of the street girls led him to look for Frankie Black in the motel. It seems fishy to Harv, a crook killing someone in a hotel room under his own name, but figures they've lucked out as he prepares to put out an APB. This is all observed by Huntress from a fire escape that doesn't look to be more than a story above them. Kinda feels like she's not hiding very well, but moving on. Very next page, Frankie's limo is being pursued by a squad car. Man, that was fast. As Pasquale urges him to tell their boss Malfatti about his relationship with Moira. Then there's the matter of the crates intended for someone named Russo, and Moira doesn't like the idea of starting their life together using gun-running money. Her boyfriend tells them both the whole point of the shipment and subterfuge was to get out of the mob life and be with a civilian, which his boss wouldn't like. But with his plan not going the way he had hoped, he tells the driver to stop the car. Pasquale, your name is now Frankie Black. Now tell the police I was just giving you a lift, then take the fall for the murder I actually didn't commit this time. Nightwing inspects the crate of guns in the warehouse as the aforementioned Russo enters with some prospective clients, saying Frankie set things up so that Malfatti is in the dark, and Russo stands to profit. He also assures their concerns of any pointy-eared interference, so Nightwing employs some shadow puppetry to spook them for funsies. Really impressive how he got his fingers all pointy like that. The good news is, I'm not Batman. The bad news is, I pretty much share his opinion on gun running in Gotham. But we disagree on whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. It's a whole thing. The buyer's goons open fire, risking the merchandise, but Wing evades them and goes stealth. He takes the henchman and boss out in pretty short order, and it's a classic example of Grayson's formidable skills coupled with his fairly playful nature. Sometime later, Huntress is watching Frankie get arrested when she apparently detects another vigilante nearby and automatically assumes it's Batman about to give one of his grim warnings. Seeing who it really is, she immediately tells Nightwing to tell Bats that she's going to stay on this case until there's no doubt Frankie is getting locked up. As he tries to clarify things, she keeps making assumptions, like the boss Knight left the city to his sidekick for a while with orders specifically in regards to Huntress. The first issue already has 2 instances of conversations being muddied and overdrawn because one side won't or isn't allowed to clarify. While it's kind of understandable given pre-existing tension between Helena and the Bat, it'd be more known to those who have read those kind of stories before this one. While one can infer the tension from the dialogue, if this is your first intro to the Huntress, it can make her come off as overly abrasive and unlikable. Nightwing specifies that, yeah, Bats did ask him to look after Gotham, but Frankie Black isn't guilty of murder. Not because the victim was a prostitute, as Bertinelli assumes, again, and Wing even suggests that she knows him better than to think otherwise, but that Grayson was at Pier 6 spying on Black when the murder occurred. Huntress figures that he's guilty of something and mentions how her family was murdered by the Mafia, and is then reminded her family was also, well, the Mafia. She can't let her judgment be clouded by her feelings on the matter, which Wing admits makes him sound like his mentor, but they can't let someone take the fall for a crime they didn't commit, even if they're guilty of a different offense. Despite the blue bird design of his suit, Grayson would not last long on Twitter, where the uninformed find people they disagree with guilty of crimes they either didn't commit or aren't actually crimes. As long as Frankie is taken down, Helena doesn't care what the means are, which is a sentiment shared by Officer Mason, who begins knocking the mobster around until Bullock stops him and reminds him that the guy still has a Fifth Amendment right not to talk. Also, they have the hotel ledger confirming the room in his name. No disciplinary action for abusing a suspect? No? Okay, I'm sure Jim Gordon will love that. Anyway, Pasquale is meeting with Boss Malfatti, an old man who suspects Frankie of betraying him. Pasquale, stammering nervously, says it's not like that, manages to keep mum about the arms shipment, but spills the beans about Moira, and the hotel was an alibi so that he could see her. But she don't know nothing about the organization. Of course, with that double negative, Malfatti thinks she knows everything about the organization and puts a hit out on her. Grammar is important, people. It saves lives, it does. Nightwing and Huntress sneak their way to the crime scene, the latter hoping Frankie's arrest leads to Malfatti's and subsequently the destruction of organized crime in Gotham, like falling criminal dominoes, and guesses that Nightwing thinks as little of her abilities as his boss. Actually, like Batman, Grayson thinks highly of her capabilities, but thinks her methods aren't quite right. And not because that he can only think like Bats, he's open to other types of problem solving, but he bases it on evidence. To make his point, he holds up a pillow and invites Huntress to look around. This isn't the site of a Mafia hit. Look at this pillow, Huntress! Do you see a horse's head anywhere on it? No? I rest my case. He goes on saying, we serve justice, and we can't premeditate putting a man in jail for a crime he didn't commit. And those we's have Helena wondering as her demeanor changes. She asks if he's letting her work this case with him to keep an eye on her, and then they kiss. Or because you know somewhere in that busy brain of yours that we're just as much family, as they are. After what our tongues just did, I hope not. My love life's complicated enough without finding out later that we're long-lost siblings or something. The issue ends with a rather talkative GCPD, various conversations, and less than critical emergency calls going on at once. A man approaches Sergeant Bullock, a Lieutenant Ellison from Vice's organized crime unit, and wants help locating his missing partner. He shows the badge and ID of the very woman killed at the beginning. Bum, bum, bum. Did she have a twin sister? No. Then I've got some bad news for you. This was a good kickoff to the story, establishing a bit of tension for our main characters, though maybe forget my earlier remark. Grayson operates by evidence, whereas Bertinelli keeps having instant outbursts based on assumptions. He is living in Twitter at this point. Except for the making out. That does not happen on Twitter. Not in my experience, anyway. They also leave you an interesting twist to an already complicated mystery to draw you in for the next issue, which we'll get into next week. What was the missing officer doing in the hotel room? How does this change the investigation for our heroes? Will Bullock embrace plant-based donuts? Tune in and find out. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.